Katrina here from Scrappy Horses. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Alright, now you might be wondering, why are we sitting here looking at this button forever and ever? But there's a reason. There's always rhyme and reason over here to the strange things that happen. It's because we're focusing on buttons today. Now, I was working on this card and I wanted something a little different, and I had this plain blue button and I wanted to color it darker. So I grabbed the Copic marker, which, as many of you know, is an alcohol-based marker, and I decided to try to color it, and it didn't work the way I wanted. So I just kept going and kept trying new things, and I decided I liked what I came up with, and I wanted to share some of these ideas with you. So let's get started. These buttons are from a variety pack that I picked up at our local Wal-mart. You'll notice that these two blue buttons that I'm starting with have a more porous consistency. They're not real shiny. They're a little rougher. I mean, they're smooth, but they have more texture to them. And I'll admit they really seem to hold the ink a lot better. Now, I layered it up with one layer, and then I waited about 5 seconds and came back in and went over that layer of ink with another layer of ink, just dabbing. And what happens is when the alcohol goes in, it seems to sort of eat away at the color that is there and then leaves it darker on the outsides, which kind of gives it a pattern. Now, I'm going to come in with a B99 and I'm going to go over this kind of button, which is a shinier button. And it doesn't take the ink as well because I believe, I'm not a scientist and I was a music major, not into science, but my guess is because it just kind of sits on top and it's not going to absorb down in at all. But by the same token, I don't believe it absorbs into the more porous one either, because I don't believe the other button really is porous. It's just got more texture. And I'll go into why I think that later. You'll see that it does take more color as I keep coming in and I put more and more layers on and I use darker and darker inks. With this one, I just stayed with a B99, which if you're into Copic coloring, that's a pretty dark blue. I'm coming back to one of these more textured buttons. I'm going to use the word textured instead of porous. And I'm using a BG09. It's interesting to watch how the color builds up. And even though BG09 is a very strong color, it just is not looking strong when you put that first layer on the button. You can see that it's starting to push the color away, and that if I wait, you see me lift my hand there, and then start adding more. I'm just giving it a few seconds to dry, and when you do that, you get more texture on it. This video is sped up quite a bit, just because how fun is it to sit and watch somebody color buttons? I mean, it's fun to see the effect, but it's not a lot of fun to watch the process maybe. So you can see there I've got those two buttons laid side by side here as I'm rubbing off the blue button that I did earlier. Now you can see that now this button has lost some of its shine and it's looking a little more textured again. This one I'm rubbing just to see what happens, because I'll admit I was just playing and I thought it'd be fun to see. Some of it did rub off, but some of it retained the color. So I'm coming in with the B69 now over another one of these more textured buttons. And B69 is a bright blue, has a lot of color intensity to it. And it was kind of fun over this lighter blue button. I'm going to color up the inside. This one, I'm going to come in and do something really different. I decided I wanted to see how much texture I could get. And I found that it wasn't as much as I had thought I was going to get with this deep dark, or not deep dark, but intense 6-9. So I decided instead of using a shop towel or a paper towel to rub it over, I was going to use some denim. Now the denim is a little more coarse, And that's going to take off a little more of the color. You can see that it's starting to come off. And so this is the reason I want to say that this is maybe porous is not the right word, because if this truly were porous, I believe the ink would be absorbed into the button, and it simply is not, because you can rub it away. And later on, we're going to go and I'm going to tell you even more about that. But I came in with a BG color over the B69, and then that gave it even more variety. Now here's one of these really slick, shiny buttons. And you're going to be able to see even more that, I mean, the ink just kind of sits on top of there. It does dry, and it will stay on there. When you first put this alcohol ink on, it is very sticky. Don't panic. Once it dries, it's not sticky anymore. When I first did this, I thought, oh, I'm not going to be able to use this because it's just sticky. But it does dry, and then it's fine. And any stickiness that's there, you can just sort of wipe away on a shop towel or a paper towel. This one, I didn't like the way it turned out, so I grunged it up, and I went over with denim, as you just saw me do, and that gave it that grunge look. Now, as for this brown button, I really like that button. I'll probably use that on a journal. But I decided to come in with some really deep dark browns over it. Try to make it look a little more wooden. And I like the way that one came out. That one's kind of fun. I like that. So here are the different buttons that I did today. Here I am wiping over with a shop towel, and you can see that it takes away some of that shine. Now you're going to see it again, and here it is shiny again because I went over it with a little more ink. But here are the different buttons that I used. And you can see that I'm not going to use the word porous, the texture, the buttons that seem to have more texture really did seem to take the ink better. I like them better. But I recommend you're trying this and kind of giving it a go and deciding what you like, because it kind of depends on what you like. Remember, you don't want to use any buttons that you're not willing to risk losing, because depending upon what they're made of, they may not react the same way with the alcohol markers. Have fun, enjoy, and let me know how you like this technique. Have a great week. Bye.